In our previous video, we were able to run our Laravel application for the first time by running the command php artisan serve in our terminal. So what I want us to do is to opt out of this terminal, because in this episode, I want us to talk about the Laravel directory structure. So I will press Ctrl C to come out of the terminal, and then just open this folder, or in this case our project, inside VS Code, because we had initially installed VS Code. So what I'm going to do is just to type inside the terminal here, we are going to type code and a full stop and then press enter, and that will open our application in VS Code. I'm trying to make this video as friendly, beginner friendly as much as possible. So I'm giving a lot of thought into each and everything that I do. So let us go ahead and look at the folder structure of Laravel. And so we have the app directory as the first directory above here. And when we open it, it has three more directories: HTTP, models, and providers. The HTTP directory houses the controller directory, which houses controllers. We will talk about controllers in future videos. We will also have this models directory, which has our models. We will talk about it also in due future. And then we have the providers directory. Inside this app directory, we can also have more directories, and I'm going to mention but a few. We can have services, policies, middleware, among other directories on top of whatever it is that we have in the default application. And then we have the bootstrap directory. And so for this bootstrap directory, inside it we have the cache directory, and which in this case works with issues to do with the caching of our application. Then of course we have some two files, app.php and providers. When we look into the app.php, we have return our application, we have routing, we have middleware, we have exceptions, and then we are creating our application. We will cover some of these things in future videos. And then we have the providers, which of course is calling the providers that are in this app providers directory. I want us to talk about config, and here what we have, these are configuration files, and maybe we can be able to just look at one of them. So this, the app.php configuration file, is the one that carries the basic configuration files for our Laravel application. For example, the app name, the env, whether it's production or sandbox, and so on and so forth. If you find that I'm mentioning anything that you do not understand, it's fine. You will be able to get into the details as we proceed. We have the database directory, and the database directory has a folder or directory that is called factories. And factories, inside here, we usually use factories in Laravel to create fake data. And this can help to make your development process a little bit faster, because you can anticipate what kind of information you will be having in your databases. These factories are run by seeders. So that is where we have the database seeder. So as you can see here, there are values that are being created in these seeders. So the factories are the creation of fake data, and the seeders run this data and save them in the database. As simple as that. And then we have the migration folder, and for the migration folder, here is where we store the database sort of columns and rows and tables and everything that we require. So the structure of our table. So for example, if we are to open, we can be able to see that we have users table, and these are the columns that are going to be in our users table. So you can check the files and see how everything is. Another thing that is worth noting is that by default, Laravel runs on the database that is SQLite. But of course, you can be able to change this and use MySQL, Postgre, whatever it is that you would want to use as your database. Of course, in the tutorial that we are going to talk about, we will talk about SQLite for most of the part, but of course, we can be able also to talk about a little bit of MySQL. So we are done with the database directory. I want us to talk about the public directory. And this directory is the one that is publicly accessible when we have our Laravel application hosted. So we have some files here, which is htaccess, the settings for our server, and then we have index.php and we have robots.txt. This one has to do with the crawling of our website by, in this case, the Google or any other search engine. So this is where we decide whether we allow a crawling of our website or not. But the index.php is a very interesting file. This is the first point of contact. When somebody searches our application, the first point of contact is usually this file that we call index.php. When you open it, you can see it has some values in there that have been set. Let us talk about the resources folder. So for the resources folder, it has some 3 directories, and of course they can be increased to be more depending with what kind of application you're having. If you're using some starter packages or anything of that sort, we have the CSS and JS, and here is where we store the uncompiled JavaScript and CSS. And when we open here, we only have one file, app.css. When we open the JavaScript, we have 2 files, app.js and bootstrap. So basically, that is what we have in the resources. And then, of course, we have views. And this is where we put sort of like our HTML. So in this case, when you look at this file that is called welcome.php, I think it looks familiar. If you have a grasp of HTML and a little bit of CSS, you can be able to see what exactly is happening here. I would like us to talk about the routes folder. And here we have 2 files by default. We have console, where we will run our console commands, and we also have web.php. And here in console, you can run even schedules and every other thing about that. And then we have the storage folder. And in our storage folder, we have several directories. And just to mention, this storage folder is where you can be able to save your files. So for example, files that are publicly accessible, you can save them inside app public. You can also be able to create other directories. So for example, if you have avatars in your website, you can be able to create a folder that is called avatars inside here and be able to access them. We have framework. And here, as you can see, if we open it, it has to do with caching, sessions, and testing. I will close that, and then we will talk about logs. So whenever we are working in our Laravel application, we usually have logging. You can be able to check the way your application is running. If there are any errors that are being encountered, you can also be able to come and check this logs file and see what you have. Then we have a directory called tests. This is where the default place where you can be able to house your tests, the tests for your Laravel application. And in this case, we usually have several types of tests. We have feature tests, we have units tests, and those ones you can be able to have them here. And by default, you can be able to use PHP unit for testing, and you can use PEST. And of late, PEST has come out to be good testing platform for very many developers. So basically, we are done with that. Inside the vendor directory is where you have the packages, you have the Laravel framework, any third-party package, all those will be auto-loaded here. And it is a place where even when we install packages using Composer, because we will be using packages that have been created by Laravel as first-party packages, and we can also use third-party packages and so on and so forth. So once you install a package, it will be in the vendor directory. And this vendor directory, most of the times, you will not find yourself touching this one. And then I think now after that, now we just have some files down here. We have env, that is our environment file where we store our sensitive data. And then we have all these other files. The composer.json, it shows the packages that have been pulled in, the version of PHP, and so on and so forth. And then we have artisan file and among other file, gitignore, and so on and so forth. So we will be going ahead and looking at each of these things in a step-by-step basis. If there's something that this video was aimed to do, is just to show you where you can be able to find which directory. If I ever find myself whereby I'm teaching and I'm saying we are now going to the migrations directory, you will not get lost finding where the migration could be. And even if you do not know, if I click somewhere, you can be able to remember, oh, we talked about this. So basically, that is the reason why I think this is a good episode. And I thought that it was good for us to attempt and just talk about some of these things, such that when we proceed to the next level, you can be in a position to just move as one unit. Thank you very much for following this video up until this point. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. You can give us a subscription if you are new to this channel. And if you have a comment, you can share in the comment section below. Thank you very much.